if you walk into a morgue and 5 people are dead by suicide, 4 of them are men. So men are 4 times more likely to successfully, end themselves. And so I think that's a pretty massive and staggering stat to begin with because that's becoming an increasingly big thing. Suicide is a very, very big issue, and it predominantly, like, it impacts men a lot more in terms of when they do it, it's permanent, right? Like, there's a far less awareness of that. Uh, What's anything that you have to add off that stat, Keith?
Um, I mean, it's a sad thing to talk about from this perspective because I mean, there's a spectrum, right, of when it comes to like men's issues, right? There's the social aspect of things that men have to deal with. There's the economic, and obviously these things tie into each other. And then you've got this actual mortality aspect of everything. And at the end of the day, it's like what we really are trying to get at is how these things do thread together.
Mhm.
And to think that the success rate is higher is a very, 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 tough thing to think about, um, and something that I guess I don't wanna necessarily speculate on in this particular moment, but, that's a very staggering statistic. Okay, alright,
We lost Keith there. Yeah,
already.
so yeah, and again, I am only going off of what I found online, so fact check all of these numbers we're gonna talk about, but that does kind of make sense to me. We've already talked about this briefly too, where a lot of times when men are getting to the place where they're giving up completely, it's because they've tried a lot of things and thought about a lot of things for the most part and just said, "Okay, here's where I'm at." So that's a very serious thing. I think how you remedy that is you have the conversation out loud a lot more. And also as dudes, I think we need to collectively get a lot better at being supportive to each other. I think a lot of dudes out there, they have friends even, but they don't have friends where they can talk about the stuff that they actually need to talk about. So I think that creating a dialogue and creating the
Mm,
precedent that talking about whatever as a dude is cool and not only cool, but also important is one of the biggest things to do that. Because I think that one other thing that we suck at so bad is because we're all so quiet for the most part, besides with specific things, is that everyone thinks that their experience is super individual, right? Like they think that what they're dealing with, their inner demons, their insecurities, like they think they're the only one having them because if they say it out loud and then the other guy is not, they're worried they're going to be seen as like a pussy, right? And like that's so broken and so destructive. And then also that for even the guys that do have a support system, they don't get to take advantage of it because they feel too, I don't know if the word's insecure or they don't feel it's appropriate to bring up their own problems. It's like, what's the point of having friends? What's the point of having a support group if they can't even help you, right? So I think it can start a chain reaction from a positive point of view when you start having these conversations because they've got to become normalized where people feel like they can just do it and it's not weird. What's your experience with all that, Keith?
no, I think you're right on. I mean, the major thing is men all over the world are very often like raised to essentially suppress any type of emotional sort of stuff that they have going on.
Hmm.
I think nowadays we're finally starting to actually like have that conversation, and so people understand that that is a thing that is a
Hmm.
part of the male experience. But when you suppress any emotions, and this all does tie back also into the way that I look at money and finance and things of that nature, the more you suppress emotions, the more you're going to get some sort of an explosion in the other direction. Right. So when I say that ties back into money and all of that, let's talk about markets, right? If you're a trader, this is the most common thing that I would see from a failing trader is like you you think that the game of trading and being a successful trader is about being emotionless, right? And so what do? You come into the markets and you'll press the button and it'll either go up or it'll go down. And if it goes up, you're not going to be emotionless. Let's be real. That's not the part that people want to say. You're going to be like super ecstatic. But then when the price goes down, you're going to be super stoic about it. It's like, oh, well, it's fine. You know, the price is going down. I'll be all right. Same thing in the crypto community, right? It's like, oh, diamond hands. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily what's the best approach. There's this book that I read earlier this year called Market Mind Games by Denise Shaw. And in the book, she talks about how she's a psychologist. She basically helps traders manage their psychology. These are like hedge fund traders, hundreds of millions of dollars that they're trading around. And the major thing that she points out in this book is that you should really look at your emotions as data. And when you look at your emotions as data, you have a framework through which you can look at why you're feeling the things that you're feeling about the things that are happening outside of you. And so, anyways, I do think that that is how I mean, that applies to all of life. Instead of when you see yourself reacting to something and you're getting upset or you're sad or whatever, instead of feeling like you need to suppress these emotions, you need to really like look at those emotions. And sometimes that means expressing them out loud. That was what this lady does, right? She would sit and listen to these traders as they would talk her through the things that
Mm,
they're feeling as they're down $100 million in a trade. So, um, you know, there's a lot of psychology that comes with expressing yourself and your feelings. And also, one of the things that she teaches in the book is to write it down. Writing things down activates your ability to process, right, information through the prefrontal cortex and deactivating your amygdala, which we talked about with Salim a little bit. It's the center of your brain that is responsible for fear and anxiety responses. And so, um, as men, we should have diaries. We should have open discourse with other men and other people, anyone that's around us that's there for us, and having that be something that's okay. And even the thing that I think is tough for people to understand is just to be just to have a sounding board. Okay, is what is valuable. It's not about what they say back. And you might tell someone like, I don't need you to say anything about this. I just need to get this off my chest. I just need
mhm.
to actually hear myself say this out loud in relation to someone. So, anyways, I think those are some things to think about when it comes to the this issue of we don't have outlets. We're not taught to use the outlets of the people around us, our parents or whatever, as a way to express and get this stuff out. And if you don't, then it can absolutely lead to doing things that you can't take back, just like you would in the markets.
Yeah. No, I think I was about to say the same thing about writing it down is really important. We've talked about breath work and meditation. I think that those are something that men need more than like any other group of people out there because of all the things that we're talking about. But we've also been kind of drilled into our heads, which is either it was always like that or it's become reality where men are basically seen as productivity machines, right? And so what was productive throughout history has been vastly different. And so that's dependent on like where does men see their value. It's like, how productive are they? And now when the only benchmark is dollars and cents, there's like all these guys who are walking into one of the worst situations to accumulate enough money to support a family. And if you don't have that, you're basically seen as a loser, right? And so think about like where guys go to, like what do they care about, right? They want to attract a partner. And if they go and watch any sort of content, they're constantly being told that if you don't have these certain criterias, that you're just not an eligible companion. And so then if someone's in that situation where they don't have a good group of friends, and then also like they're being told every day they'll never find a good partner or a good job, it totally makes sense why guys are just completely quitting. And so I think it's really important to shift your benchmark for things, right? Obviously we were sold a lie when everything was made as like money is everything, but you also can't escape the reality that money is something we have to deal with in the current moment. And so I think that building a system where you can own yourself first is super important because if you try to go and do the whole entrepreneurship or anything that we talk about on the show, like you said, Keith, if you don't have yourself sorted, the chances of you being successful in those endeavors are so much lower. So yeah, like I could say go solve your money problem, but to be honest, if you're not a person who's okay with themselves, if I just hand you all this money, you're going to be almost worse off. And of course, it's really hard to say that when people are like, "Oh, like easy for you to say or whatever." But like I have friends that were just given a bunch of money who weren't ready for it and like things don't typically go very well.
100%. I thank God every day for not giving me money when I was trying to get it, like,
Yeah.
or taking it away from me when I had it. Because I probably wouldn't be here. Like, we have to be the vessel, right, through which you can actually hold that value. Um, and so if you don't have that, then yeah, you're gonna lose it or even do something that could be even worse than just losing the money and lose your health or someone else's health or anything like that. Hey, you're still here. Means you must have really enjoyed this. If you want to see the full version of this podcast episode, click the link in the description down below. And otherwise, YouTube thinks that you'll like this.